Hey guys, Chantel here from One Day Webs. I'm posting a little bit of a techie YouTube today, and I'm hoping it'll benefit some of the communities that I contribute to and that I'm on the receiving end of a lot of help from online. So there's often a lot of talk around WordPress about which theme do you choose. I know for several of us that build websites, clients can spend an inordinate amount of time trawling the web looking at theme after theme after theme, and they find it quite difficult to make a decision sometimes. And I think also there are so many options and so many themes out there that come with so many options that it can be quite overwhelming. So the sort of technical back end of what we choose to work on with One Day Webs is something called Beaver Builder. And I've built with many themes. I've built with all those themes that you buy on Theme Forest that are absolutely enormous, with all sorts of plugins installed and make your web incredibly slow but look really pretty. And I wouldn't recommend going down that road. I've also dabbled quite a bit with Genesis. I've got the Genesis themes and I've got Genesis Dynamic. So if you are a techie and listening to this, you'll know what that means. And while those are also incredible, I mean, the Genesis Dynamic and Genesis framework is amazing if you have a lot of time to build a site and want to set every last item. But really, for most people, Beaver Builder and the Beaver theme is going to do absolutely perfectly. And it's certainly what I end up building 95% of my sites with, purely because it just can do everything. Now, a couple of comments I've seen on some of the groups has led me to post this tutorial, just because people seem to feel that some of the options are limited. And it just takes a little bit of creativity in using the tools that come packaged with this theme and this plugin to achieve what you want to achieve. So, for example, one of the things that people have been commenting on quite frequently on the group are they want more interesting layouts for their blog. You know, they don't want the stock standard sort of list, as it were, that just goes, like you have here, where you've just got a list of your posts and you've got a sidebar or whatever the case is. And yes, that is the default sort of layout for Beaver. You can, of course, customize that. So I'm just going to quickly take you through those customized settings just to show you the different options there. So when you go into Beaver, you're going to look at your content section and you're going to look at, for example, blog layout, archive layout, and post layout. So first of all, blog layout, you'll see here sidebar right. Obviously, if we decided to change that to sidebar left, then the sidebar would move to the left. You've got sidebar sizing options. You've got when you want to display your sidebar. So only on desktop or on all devices. You've obviously got what you can see and hide of your content, but it's pretty sort of standard stuff. It's gonna work for the majority of your normal websites, as it were. If you look at your archive layout, that just asks you if you want to include the full text or if you want to read more. And of course, if you look at your post layout, that's going to tell you where do you want your featured image. Do you want it above the title, above the post? So for example, if we actually click through to one of these posts so that we can see the effects that this has, the moment it's set for the featured image above the title. If we change it to above the post, what it's going to do is have your title and your metadata there, your image, and then your post information. You can change it to beside the post, in which case it lays it out like that. So you've got your title and your meta at the top and you've got the image on the left, and you can hide it completely. So you can change those basic settings for your blog. Okay, so how do we create more interesting layouts? Okay, so what you would do is actually just create a page and use the tools that come with the Beaver Builder page builder in order to actually create those layouts. So this layout here has been created with Beaver Builder. At the top we have a carousel. I'm just going to refresh so that we've got a fresh copy so that you can see after a certain number of seconds, which you set in the item, you get a little scroller. It has a mouse over effect. These are all sort of changeable. What I've then got is I've got a full width sort of featured post. Then I move into a 3-column sort of, let's call it semi-featured posts, and then I move into my post list, which I've chosen the left image for. And then I finish off at the bottom with a gallery, with a posts gallery, with a mouse over, with a hover effect as well. So you can create some interesting looks for your posts. So how do you do this? Let's actually go into Page Builder. So it's the Beaver Builder page builder that I'm using to build these pages. Right, so the first row is actually a full width row. So it's an ordinary row that you will have put in by saying row layout, one column, and dragging it across, just like that, dropping it into the page, and then when you click on the little spanner, you can actually go in and say, I want it to be full width, for example, in this case, because we want to see all of those posts, and you want the content to be full width as well. So that means that whatever you stick inside that blue box is actually going to be full width. If you leave the width full width and the content width fixed, then your content isn't going to fill to the edges. So you would use this, for example, if you set a background color that you want to see and then some content that you want contained within that background color. So for the purposes of this, because I just want to demonstrate how I've built this page, we're going to go with full width and full width. I normally go one step further because there's paddings and margins around all of these elements in Beaver Builder. So you click on the Advanced tab, and I normally zero out all of these paddings and margins. So I zero all of that out so I have a fully full width row ready to accept content. You then click on your Add Content button, and under Advanced Modules over here, you would then find your post carousel. So right here, you'll see there's 3 different post options. You have posts, post carousel, and post slider. So I'm using the post carousel in this top example, and all you do is you click and you drag it, and when it's over that row, you drop it in. Okay, so by default, it puts it in like that for you. So you can see that there's a layout called Grid, and that is that layout. There is also a layout called Gallery. And when you change it to Gallery, you'll see that it changes more to the look that I've got, but with padding, for example. So that may be the look you're going for, then that's perfect. Then you're done. You don't really have to do anything more. I want it to all be full width like this carousel I've created below, so I'm going to go ahead and make some changes. So first of all, I'm going to take the dots off, so your pagination, as it were. I'm going to say, no, I don't want those. Okay, then I'm going to head over to the layout section, and right here you'll see there's a maximum width, which is 300 pixels. So those at the moment are about 300 pixels, and then over here you'll see there's a post spacing. So that is the white space that you're seeing between your posts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this to, let's just say, double the size. Let's make it 600. And I'm going to change that to 0 because I don't want any space between my posts. Okay, the other thing we need to do is go to Advanced, and it's a good idea to take these margins out as well from there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then we can see how we are looking. Okay, so something's not right. We still don't have the right width that we want. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to just reset this. Sometimes when I'm working too fast, it doesn't actually, I've just remembered what it is. Right, so your featured image here, you'll see it's currently set on 300 by 300. You actually need to change that to the larger featured image size so that it will bring through the larger image so that it will actually display it at 600. It obviously can't display a 300 by 300 image at 600 wide. So there you go. You have all sorts of different options on your sliders of things that you can hide and show, and obviously there's a lot more layouts you can play with. So for example, the crop at the moment on those images is landscape. You've got all sorts of different settings you can play with here. So you could make that panorama, which is great for a slider at the top like that, where it's like more narrow, you know, so it's not as high and it's wider. You could change it to portrait, where your orientation is, more in a portrait shape. So if you've got a lot of images that are more portrait shaped, that might work for you. You can make it square. So you can see you can play with quite a few settings here to adjust your look. So now your images are square. And you can see even how cool a layout that is with square images and then the row below with your sort of normal orientation. I mean, you could even play with just a whole bunch of post carousels. The other thing to note is if you don't want stuff repeating, I mean, I'm using a fresh install here of a site, and I literally only have 10 dummy posts loaded with, you know, some of them not even featured images, as you can see up there. When you've got a fully functioning blog with different categories, you can actually display different categories in different areas. So this would be a gorgeous layout if you were doing that. You know, how you do that is you go to content, and in the content window, you have the option to choose, first of all, what kind of content you want to display. So you can even display pages in here, not just posts. Obviously, your ordering options, and then you can actually type in specific posts you want to display there, or you can choose by category, by tag, or by author. So, you know, you choose a category and you choose how many you want to display, and that can feature quite nicely in that area. Okay, another thing to note is how many posts you have, but I'm going to show you that in the next section. Okay, so for now we've created the same sort of effect that we had before. I'm going to go ahead and delete that row so that we can get back to our original layout. Okay, the next section we would need to create is just a normal full width blog post as like a featured blog. So again, what I did here was I created a new row. You can see when I mouse over, it's not full width. Just for the purposes of this layout, I didn't feel I wanted to go full width on the remainder of the blog page. So you'll see that I've actually kept it quite normal. Okay, so how do you do this? You again go to add content, and this is just using your regular posts. So you would just use this one right here, and you would drag it into the row that you create, and you would drop it. Okay, so again, you have some options here. So here we have the options of grid, which you can see below here. Let's just move this over so that you can see this is a grid. You have the option of gallery. So gallery literally is quite similar to the carousel at the top. It also has a mouse over effect. It just shows the image, and when you mouse over you would see the things like the title, etc. And then the third option is feed. And feed is your regular way that you would see your blogs. So like that, it's a feed. It just shows them in whatever format you choose, okay? So we're going to choose feed here, and in the example I did, we actually only had one post. So I'm going to change that number 10 to 1. So once that's refreshed, you'll see when I scroll down, it now only has that one post as part of the feed. The ones below were the original ones I created. Okay, so we want one post here. Again, you would go to your content section here, and you could either manually select a post, choose by category, choose by tag, choose by author, whatever the case is, to actually choose your post. But what I want to actually show you is this offset area. So offset comes in very handy because in this case where you're building a blog layout that's very specific. So for example, in this case, I'm building this first featured post, as it were. This is going to be my first post, let's say, in my category. I'm going to display. When I go onto my list below that, I don't want to repeat that post. So then this offset becomes very, very handy. It's a very handy feature that you can use when you're doing these layouts. And basically what this is as the tooltip says, it skips as many posts as you put into this block here. So when we get to the next section, we would want to skip a post. Let's say you were showing the first 3 posts up here. You would then want to change this, and you would skip 3 posts. And then the first post it displays over here would be your 4th post in your feed. So just a very nice handy little feature if you use it. Okay, note here that I'm going full size, and you'll see that this image is looking quite pixelated. The reason again is because by default it pulls through an image that's 300 by 300 for a blog. So you would just need to go in and change that to your larger image in the cases where you do need one like this, and you'll see it immediately changes it. Okay, so let's just talk about the options of the post feed. Okay, so we've chosen feeds. One of the things you'll need to turn off when you've got a featured post at the top, you don't want people to be hitting onto the next pages from there before scrolling down onto the rest of your sort of laid out blog page, as it were. So I would turn that off. You have the option of scrolling and none, so scrolling would just create more of them, and obviously we're going to set it to none here. We've said that we only want to display one post, which is perfect. We've said that we want to show the image. Now we choose where do we want to show that image. Again, you've got the option of above text, which is what it is on at the moment, above title, which will move the image above the rest of the info. So there you'll see a little bit of a different layout. That actually looks quite neat. And then you've got beside text as an option as well. So that could create a little featured post on its own. But we are displaying like that further down. So I'm going to go and say above title, for example. Okay, bear in mind you can do things like hide your author, you can hide your date, you can hide, show or hide your comments. So you can literally, disable stuff so that you just have the featured image, the title, and an excerpt if you want. And in fact, you can even hide the excerpt. You can hide the content. So you can change it so that you're just seeing the featured image and the name. So, in cases where you've got a feed like this, let's say if you changed it to a feed and you hid everything else, that would be quite a nice option. Okay, so that is basically how to make your featured post at the top. The most important things is you set the number of posts and you choose in your content what category or tag or author or post specifically you want to use, or you can offset if you want to offset whatever images are in the top slider. Okay, so that is adding your featured area over here. Okay, so after my featured area, I then went into a 3-column feed, or a 3-column grid rather, and that also just uses the normal posts function. So again, you click on your add content, you find your posts in your advanced modules, you drag it and you drop it, and it brings up a grid. And sometimes with my line speed and my internet speed, it does its own thing here. Okay, so here we have a grid. By default, it's showing 10 posts, so we can change that to 3 for the purposes of the layout that I'm showing you. Again, we can offset the content. So in this case, okay, we want to, let's leave it with the first 3 and we'll offset for the next lot. Okay, so again, you've got all the same content options as you've had in the others. You can choose by posts, categories, tags, etc., and you have your offset option. Layout-wise, here you have grid, gallery, and feed again. This time we're using grid. Equal heights is quite nice. You'll see if I move this out the way, this one's got a little bit of a longer excerpt, that a bit shorter. It looks a bit messy. I'm kind of a little bit anal, so I like things to line up. So you can actually set this to say, yes, I want it to be equal heights. And when you do that, you'll see that the outlining box actually gets made equal heights everywhere. Again, you can go and show and hide whatever you want. So if you want to hide the author, if you want to leave the date, whatever you want to do, you change the date format to a different layout. If you don't like that sort of default layout, you can choose whether to show or hide the content. Really, you have many options on these little layouts. But that's effectively how you use your grid. Okay, so that's how we created that next section. Right, so then I go into a normal feed for the next section. So this would be a normal feed blog, at least posts content. So under your advanced, you would go and you would drag in your posts. I don't want a grid this time, I actually want a feed. You can choose again the number of posts you want to display on the page. So let's go, let's actually change it to 5, let's say. And of course you can choose whether to show the image or hide the image. I'm just going to refresh this again. Okay, so you can choose how you want that feed to display. So by default it actually comes in like that. So it comes in with the title and the image full width, etc., etc. So yes, we want to show the image, but we actually want to position the image beside the text in this case to create that look that we're creating. So I've changed it to beside the text, and there you can see that it's now beside the text. Again, you've got all the same things that you can show and hide. So you can show content, you can hide it, you can show authors, hide them, date, blah blah blah. It's all the same stuff. Okay, so there's then your feed. Here's where offset is important. So over here we've got 3 blog posts, and over here you'll see we start with the same 3 blog posts because I haven't changed the ordering or the categories or anything. So here's a great place to show you how the offset works. So in content, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to offset the first 3. So I'm going to say offset 3, and then you'll see this one changes to the 4th post, and there's the 5th post and the 6th post, and so on and so forth. So you'll see how handy the offset can become when you're doing these layouts. Again, you don't need to use this, you could simply use categories. So a layout might work for you where you have a category featured here, you have a different category featured there, and you have a different category in your feed. There's many ways to skin a cat. Offset is just a really cool feature if you've got a blog that doesn't really have categories and just has a whole lot of date-based posts. Okay, so this feed I would then, for example, keep my page navigation on, because this is really almost the bottom of the page, and that's where you would probably want people to click to go to your next post. So I'm going to just cancel that one. Here's our original, and there's your pages. And then the last one I want to show you is the row that I created at the bottom here, and that's actually a posts gallery. So again, we're going to go to add content, and over here we are going to drag in posts, drop it into your column, for example, change it to gallery, and there's your post gallery. So it has a lovely mouse over effect, slightly different to the carousel, and you can again set whatever features you want to set. So you can say, for example, I only want to show 4 across in this particular row because that fits nicely. Great, then you only show 4. And again, you can go and pick and choose what content you want. So that's a simple post gallery. Okay, the one thing that we didn't show you in this tutorial was the post slider. So that's your other option here. We've used mainly post carousel and posts, the normal posts. So let's just pull in a post slider just so you can see what that does. So if I pull in my post slider into a new row there, you will see that it's created a slider over here. Okay, so default settings, that's what your post slider looks like. It's got a left sort of transparent layer with your title, all your usual metadata, and an excerpt. Okay, so what can we do with this? You can change the height of it. So for example, you can change it, let's say make it 600, so it's much higher, and it makes it 600. You can obviously change the number of posts. You can change the transition speed so it's slower, so you can change it to 2 seconds and double the time it takes to go to the next slide. So now it's taking a little bit longer, and there it goes. These transitions can be nice to play with as well. So at the moment, if I drag that out the way, you can see it's sliding. So when it transitions, it slides over from one to the other. The other option, oh, my mouse is giving me hassles. The other option is fade. So if we change that transition effect to fade, you'll now see when it goes from this post to the next one, it fades. So there's some nice little sort of different display options that they have. Again, you can choose whether to show arrows and show dots. So the dots appear underneath, the arrows appear on either side to go backwards and forwards. Depending on your needs, you can do whatever you like there. Layout, you can choose whether to show a featured image or hide it. At the moment, I've got the featured image set, that's kind of the default, and we've got the bigger image set for the background. Again, you have all the post info that you can show and hide, and you can show or hide the content as well. So if we, for example, decided to hide the content, you'll see now you only have a title, a date, and the comments. Okay, styling wise, you have quite a few options styling wise. You can obviously style your heading, you can style your text, your text is, you can do that styling however you want. Now, what this actually does is it moves the position of the whole box that the text is in. So you'll see that move to the right, and when I change this to the bottom, it's going to move that box to the bottom. So this is quite a nice effect you see on a lot of websites where you've got a semi-transparent box at the bottom and it's just got the post name and date and maybe say categories or comments. That's quite a nice layout. So what other styles do you have? You can obviously set all your text colors, your links, your hovers, the background color. So this here that is currently set to a black. I can go and pick some color that I have in my color palette that I've set, and then that can become the background color. I can go and change my text color so that it stands out better against that, and maybe choose a black actually. So let's just go to color picker and drag it to black because I don't have that set, and we'll just add that. So we then change that to black. You would need to do the same for your links because you'll see that these are actually links, which is why they're gray. So if you take that away, it will actually display your text colored by default, or you can actually specify a specific color there as well. Okay, so you can do your background, you can do the opacity of the background. So you'll see this has gone solid yellow now, and the reason that has happened is because this is a post that doesn't have a featured image. So if you're going to use this, try and make sure that the slides that will pop up have featured images. I'm going to just change this number of posts to 6 because I know that I've set featured images on the first 6 of my posts so that we can see more of those content, or at least styling changes. Okay, so you've got lots of options here with content options. Yeah, you can play away. It's really quite nice and easy, and you can create some really nice looks. This is now you can see the same width as the content above, so it's actually in the same width. The same as everywhere else. If you wanted this to go full width, you would just go into your row settings and you would change it to full width, change your content to full width, go into your advanced and just zero out, let's tab, zero out all your paddings and margins. And then you might also have to zero out your paddings and margins on your slider. So for example, here you'll see there's still a tiny little border around it. If you actually go into your post slider settings again, and you go to advanced, you'll see by default there's a 20 pixel margin around it. So again, if you zero all of that out, there you now suddenly have a full width slider. So quite a nice effect. So you can see how quite easily you can create very interesting layouts on your blog, and layouts that a lot of people wouldn't realize are possible with Beaver Builder because they maybe just look at the default posts layout and think that's all they can do. But as you can see from this tutorial, you really can create some interesting layouts. It's all up to you to come up with some interesting ideas of layout, and then to implement them using those 3 built-in standard tools within the Beaver Builder arsenal. So again, they were under your advanced modules. So Beaver Builder comes standard with basic modules that are here and advanced modules, and in the advanced modules section we have looked at posts, carousel and post slider, and a few of the options of how to actually edit those. So I hope you guys find that interesting, and if you enjoy it, give me a thumbs up please. I'd love to create more. So also just drop questions in the comments if you'd like advice on how to create different looks or different layouts. Feel free to ask, and if I've got a bit of time I'll be happy to do some tutorials for you. Thanks guys. Chantel from onedaywebs.com.